What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/TalesOfNeckbeards. This story is called, or today's story is called because it's a really long one, Neckbeard ruins Marvel RPG for everyone and then stalks me after I kick him from the group. Buckle up, buckaroos, this is gonna be a long one, but I need some therapy. Don't worry, Teal Deer will be at the end, but we don't need that. Some background information. I run a Marvel RPG designed by yours truly that has more of an emphasis on the story than the game itself, but still incorporates D&D-like elements, allowing people to have their own original characters, as well as control some of the heroes of the Marvel Universe. There are 2 current campaigns going, set in different universes with emphasis on different ideas. One is more to do with outer space and the cosmic side of the Marvel Universe, while the other is a little more grounded and MCU-like. Campaign in question where all this happened was the space emphasis one. The cast of the story and who they control, names have been changed to protect the innocent. Roman controls Doctor Strange, Loki, Captain America, Iron Man, Washington Rogers, clone of Steve Rogers adopted as his son, original character. Siri controls Theodore or Teddy Griffin, mutant original character, and Morgan Stark. Jay, also my boyfriend, controls Miles Morales. Matt controls Vithar Foster as Guardian original character, son of Thor, and Vision. Me, the Dungeon Master, Christine Strange or Doctor Strange's wife, Cereza Strange, Doctor Strange's daughter and apprentice, original character, Robbie Reyes, Carter Slade, Bucky Barnes, Texas Barnes, female clone of Bucky Barnes adopted as his daughter, original character, Alexander Stark, son of Tony Stark, younger brother to Morgan Stark, original character, Adrian Jackson, original character, Rhea, original character, AI made by Tony Stark, and other background characters. And then there's Kai, the 32-year-old autistic neckbeard who single-handedly ruined the campaign for everyone. Controls Kuro, original character. So me, Roman, Siri, Matt, and Jay are all good friends and have been doing all sorts of campaigns for a long time, normally with either me or Jay at the helm. We meet every week at the library, where I work, and then alternate the campaigns so we have 2 campaigns going at the same time, but we switch between them so things stay spicy. Enter Kai, stage left. Kai saw us playing and asked if he could join, to which we politely accepted, and I explained to him the rules along with how this was more of a story-focused game. He filled out a sheet and handed it to me, and I immediately noticed something was off with his character, especially in the description he gave. Kuro gave off a lot of anime vibes with weird, out-of-nowhere quirks that just didn't run with what I think he was going for. I tell him that his character isn't approved, and then hand it to Jay to check over. Jay is sort of my right-hand consultant in all things game-related, and he agrees with my decision. Kai got disheartened, but Jay promised that he would work with him on it if we wanted to continue on for the time being without him. We didn't get Kuro approved that night, or the next session, or the session after that. About 5 character revisions later, Kuro is not as overpowered and was allowed to join the game. The story in the game so far was that Loki had challenged Doctor Strange for the title of Sorcerer Supreme and had won the fight, throwing Doctor Strange into a portal and then taking the sanctum as his own along with his apprentice. Meanwhile, the Winter Soldier had also gone missing after the EPA requested guardianship from the Avengers due to an unknown substance washing up on the Hudson River that they had to remove, and were subsequently attacked, leaving only non-organic objects behind. Devastated that Bucky had gone missing again, Captain America, Texas, and Washington were told to take a breather on the advice of Tony Stark, who had stepped up into the leadership role of the Avengers. Tony had also ordered that Doctor Strange's wife be taken into custody at Avengers Tower for protection until they could locate the good doctor, in addition to sending out the order that, unless approved, none of the younger members of the Avengers could be deployed on a mission. Kai decided, despite all this prior information that we told him, the best way to debut Kuro, or Aetherius, would be to have his spaceship the size of a skyscraper land in the Hudson River, hack every news media network to broadcast a generic "We come in peace" message, before hacking both Rhea and Friday to give Iron Man a data dump that was the database on his ship, and ask if he could talk. Naturally, because his AIs got attacked, Roman decides to make Iron Man decline Kuro's offer while Alex and Washington investigated. They met Kuro, who single-handedly saved the day in a zombie invasion, which Kai made in one post, in New York. Kuro tells them that he needs to talk to Iron Man, and Alex says he could pass on a message, which Kuro refuses. Out of the game, Roman asks Kai why Kuro wants to talk to Iron Man so bad, and what it basically boiled down to was Kuro trying to get Tony Senpai to notice him. Kai did not like Tony Stark as a character and wanted to prove that Kuro was better than him by having him make better armor, better weapons, etc., and wanting Tony to acknowledge it despite the fact that the guy hurt his two AIs and is trying to lead the Avengers. Back in the game, elsewhere, Roman had Tony calm Christine down from a panic attack and took her down to the workshop/lab in the basement of the Avengers Tower to show her something he had been working on. See, Christine was a doctor too, and with the two Avengers missing and no field medic, Roman decided to have Tony build Christine something similar to the Valkyrie suit that Mercy uses in Overwatch, along with her staff to give the team a doctor and another hero that could support them, with the added bonus of Christine being able to actively participate in the search for her husband. Out of the game once more, a few days after all this happened, everyone was super happy and excited to see Christine finally take on a role as a superhero with opportunities to have shenanigans happen during her training. Kai was not impressed. He told me that he didn't like that Christine was switching to a hero and that the character I basically built up for 2 years was a boring character, before changing the subject to once again be about how great Kuro was and how powerful he was, etc. He also told me that he was thinking about commissioning an artist to draw a picture of Kuro, and I responded that using some birthday money I was given, I commissioned a professional comic book illustrator to draw Cereza. I showed him a picture of the piece, and he reacted to it by saying, "Wow, she's beautiful. When they meet in-game, Kuro's gonna be in love." I thought he was kidding because Cereza is 14 in-game, which is a known fact, and that surely he wouldn't be dumb enough to have his adult male character pursue a romantic relationship with the underage child of Doctor Strange, right? Wrong. Kai's secondary mission for Kuro now is to find Cereza, in order to date her, along with the primary mission of proving Iron Man is a horrible human being. Kuro hijacks some information, a lead from an Avengers outpost in the Midwest ran by Carter Slade and Teddy, suggesting alien activity was involved with the two Avengers disappearing. Carter and Teddy go on horseback to check out a creepy town and find a very amnesiac Bucky Barnes with silver eyes. Silver-eyed characters meant that they had an alien parasite in them that was now controlling them. Bucky uses his new alien powers to attack Carter and Teddy, who flee the town. I have Carter call Robbie Reyes to take Teddy and run to the Avengers. Well, as I said before, Kai and Kuro had intercepted the message, and he had Kuro show up to the outpost in tank. Out of the game, I told him that was a no-go. Why? Because what would happen IRL if a tank suddenly rolled up out of nowhere in your town? Nor did I ever give permission, or did he ever mention about his character acquiring a tank. I decide to retcon this, and Kuro goes back to his spaceship, still in the Hudson River, to do some recon. At this point in time, Siri and Roman are threatening to leave the group, because in addition to trying to prove that Tony Stark is a bad person, Kai is now pestering Roman constantly about having Kuro and Iron Man interact. I told Roman that if she doesn't want them to interact, they don't have to, as Tony is her character and not Kai's, so he can't force them to interact if she doesn't want to, and she took that advice. Meanwhile, Jay and I both separately talk with Kai, who says that his autism is to blame. Nevertheless, we let him off with a warning. This was around the time that the stalking began. Kai would come into where I would work and talk at me. No, not to me, at me. He would stand at the desk and go on and on and on about whatever was on his mind that day. Got into a fight with somebody on Twitter? I got talked at. His weird dysfunctional poly relationship breaking down? I got talked at. Whenever I tried to make conversation back, it would always turn into a pity party. He was the kind of guy who, if your grandma got shot, your cat got put down, your dog got run over, your house was broken into, and your parents' house was set on fire, all in the same day, somehow, some way, his day was always worse than yours. For example, one morning before work, I collapsed and passed out in the hallway of my house from a lack of nutrition, which made me unable to work for 3 days. And I asked Jay to message Kai saying when I would be back, and whatever his problem was, I didn't want to hear about it. Thankfully, Kai respected this for about a day. I felt like I was Kai's unpaid therapist, which I did not need to be taking on his problems along with my own. My family and I were moving houses at the time, and his girlfriend's, who was a total legbeard, and kept on asking me for clothes despite me being a size 2 and her a size 16. During that period, I also tried my hand at cosplay for the first time, and when I showed Kai a picture of me in costume, he laughed at it before steering the conversation back to whatever live-action Sentai show had caught his fancy that week. I honestly started to hate my own game. I didn't want to go, and it felt like a chore. My group was breaking apart, my own problems were weighing on me, Jay's and I's relationship was also being tested around this time. Finally, I had enough and kicked Kai from the group. I told Siri, Roman, and Matt not to come and to block Kai and everything they had him on, social media-wise. When Kai showed up, I told him he was being kicked from the group for being inappropriate in-game and that he needed to think and start taking responsibility for his actions. He started crying, begged for me to let him back in. Then, when I wouldn't, he called his mother. He then, as I suspected he would, wrote a bunch of abusive DMs to everyone in the group and then tried to justify it by telling me he had a powder keg temper and that he would explode if he hadn't written those out to everyone and sent them, and told me to give him 2 years and in 2 years he would return to the group. Now, because we were in the library and I am fairly well known among our regulars, somebody caught wind of his tantrum and reported it to the front desk. Our security and one of the supervisors of the front desk came over to me, and I had to explain, in albeit simplified terms, what had happened. I had never felt more humiliated than I had then. Thankfully, they were understanding and told me to talk to them if there were any more problems. Then the stalking kicked into high gear. Now, when he would come into my work to talk at me, it was about the group, how horrible everyone was, and how in 2 years he would be back in the group as if I didn't have the final say on that, and talking still about how his character was better than Iron Man, and how he was going to sweep sweet 14-year-old apprentice to the Sorcerer Supreme off of her feet. I was at my breaking point, and Jay couldn't stand to see something I had worked so hard on and my love of the game and comics be destroyed. Not to mention, it was affecting my schoolwork. He would come up to me at work, and when I wasn't there, he would message me with mostly the same content in the messages. What broke the camel's back was one day when I was doing my schoolwork while I had some downtime at my desk, and he told me how much he pitied me for being in college because he had a hard time in calculus. He dropped out of college when he was in, and asked me if I struggled in it too. I responded that I never had to take calculus, so I never struggled with it, and I was lucky because most of the classes I did take in terms of math were financially based. He tried to scold me and tell me to be more modest about my intellect because, and I quote, "people like modesty," and that I shouldn't be bragging about your clearly superior mind when not all of us are made to stand tall among society's elite. Before going on about his autism again, my coworker told him that he should take his own advice, which got him to leave me alone for about an hour, before coming back over and getting on his soapbox to proclaim why we should let endangered animals go extinct because that's what nature wants, and it's natural. I called Jay after work, distraught from having to deal with him, and Jay told me not to worry about it. Jay messaged him and told him to leave me alone. A lot of people and even other campaign groups told me to get a restraining order or a no contact order. He didn't. He and Jay talked, and once again, Kai said he only did it because of his autism, to which Jay told him to quit using it as an excuse as he was intelligent enough to know how to temper it, which we had seen in our sessions. Jay told him he was purposefully harassing me because he knew I had to be nice to people or else I would lose my job, as is the way with all jobs working with the public, and if he didn't stop then he would kick his teeth in. As in, he would drive and wait for him outside, because Jay didn't live in our town and it didn't matter if he got kicked out of the library as he could just go to the one more near to him, but Kai didn't have a car, so if he got kicked out then he couldn't go to any library for a year. He has come up to me a few times since, but I think he's just poking the bee's nest to see what he can get away with. My Marvel game has sort of ground to a halt, mostly due to life happening with the other members, but we try to play when we can. I'm still trying to get back into comics, although I did recently read Persepolis, which, whilst not really being a comic, it is still a graphic novel and one I highly recommend to people wanting to dabble in the genre, but wanting something that makes you think. I just needed to post this because I needed some therapy, and writing it all down has definitely helped me come to terms with it. Ah, man, it's always sad when people are trying to be nice to people to include them, and those people that they are including because they're nice end up ruining the thing that they're being included in, and the people are too nice to do anything about it before it's too late and the thing is ruined because of the person that was included, just because the people were nice. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.